That's right. You heard her. And it's official now. This call is being recorded. Welcome to the call, everybody. It's Bible study night. I'm so super excited. My name is Tim Damron. I'm with the House of Yah Community Outreach, for those of you that don't know who I am. And welcome. Natasha, welcome to the call. So glad that you made it as well. Um, and this is our first Bible study for, well, the Gregorian year for that matter. And we're going to be talking about some good stuff tonight. I hope you guys brought your Bibles with you. And if you haven't, well, then you can listen to me. And if you have, then you know what? Read along, maybe make some notes, stuff like that. It helps. So welcome everybody that's coming in on the call. Welcome everybody in TikTok land. I'm so glad you guys are all here. Blessings, everyone. Blessings, blessings. So glad you guys are here. Let me get clued in here. More time. There we go. Right. It's always good to see you. Always good to have everybody on the call. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. I see you guys coming in. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. Those of you guys that have your copy of the scripture, we're going to be reading out of Hebrews chapter 3 tonight. Super excited. And you know what? This is going to be all about being set apart. Okay. You know, we've got a lot of folks that are getting the call. And what call is that? The one that says it's time to wake up. The one that it says it's time to get your house in order. Last week, we talked about keeping your vessel and maintaining your vessel and what we shouldn't be doing with our vessels, right? You know what I mean? I mean, if you had a super tanker, you wouldn't be entering that super tanker in like the next jet boat race, would you? Probably not. Yeah, and you probably wouldn't be entering it in anything else other than what it's designated to be used for, right? Because everything has its purpose. And you have to understand that you as the vessel also have that very same purpose. And Yahweh is the only one that knows your purpose, I assure you. You know, they heard all these songs growing up, you know, and well, they're still playing them again. So I guess not much has changed. But, you know, anyway, if you guys have your copy of the scripture, let's open it up to Hebrews chapter 3. Let's start in verse 1. It says, "Therefore, brothers, whom God has set apart, who share in the call from heaven, think carefully about Yeshua, whom we acknowledge publicly as Yahweh's emissary. Emissary. I can't speak tonight. As long as Kohen Gadol, as Kohen Gadol, and we'll go into exactly what that means here in just a minute. Verse 2, it says he was faithful to Yahweh, or faithful to God, who appointed him, just as Moshe was faithful in all of God's houses, okay, or in God's house. Let's pray for just a minute. Father in heaven, I just thank you for this word, and I just pray that your hand would be over this study tonight. I pray that you would make us complete, Father. Make us complete in our processes. Make us complete in our ability to hear, comprehend, and see the things that you have set before us tonight. We give you praise, honor, and glory in all things. And all of Yahweh's children said, praise Yahweh. Come on, say it. There we go. See, it's simple, just like that. And it doesn't even hurt. See, nothing happened. It's all good, right? I want to welcome all of you guys that are here on the call. And what are we talking about tonight? We're talking about being set apart, okay? And what I'm saying is being set apart. You know, you see these things. I saw this, and it was beautiful. I'm not going to say that it wasn't beautiful, but it makes me think too, okay? And when you look at stuff, we need to be looking at all angles of when we look at things. So here's what I saw. I saw all of these people inside, I think it was the Hilton Hotel, okay, somewhere, okay, it doesn't matter where. And everybody's out on their balconies, and everybody's balconies actually face into the courtyard. And I'm familiar with that hotel. I've actually been in one of those that are built that way. So I get it. And everybody is singing. They're singing Yahweh's name, you know? Well, actually, they're not singing Yahweh's name. They're talking about God, and they're not being too specific. And this is where we need to be. This is the difference between being set apart and not being set apart. Okay. When you're set apart, that means you're defined. That means that, no, this is oregano. Okay. Oregano goes over here, because we don't want to confuse oregano with sugar, right? Because if you put oregano in your coffee, though it might taste good in your spaghetti, it's going to taste absolutely evil in your coffee. So we want to make sure that that's separate, right? Well, Yahweh has woken us all up. Those of you guys that have been waking up, and those of you guys that are waking up right now, he set you aside. That means that when you come into the presence of other people that don't know who Yahweh is or despise Yahweh, we're going to talk about those people. When you come into their presence, they're going to despise you. for no reason at all. Just go look at you, go, oh, it's another one. And you're like wondering what was on my head, what was on the. No, that's Yahweh's anointing. That's okay. That's a blessing. We got to count that good. So it's when he's talking about Moshe. Moshe is those of you guys that are reading Torah. This is Abraham. Okay, so when he's talking, or Moses, I'm sorry, this is Abraham. We're talking about Moshe, and he was faithful in God's house. Okay, and verse 3 it says, but Yeshua deserves more honor than Moshe, because just as the builder of the house deserves more honor than the house. Well, wait a minute. Did you hear what they just said? What are we doing? What were all those people singing about? Okay, all those people came from a sect of people, and I know because I grew up in this with all these people. Okay. And they've decided that they're going to build their golden calf and they're going to just worship Yahweh the way they want to worship him. They're going to call him what they want to call him. Okay. They don't care what the word says. They're just going to work in disobedience. And look how they flock together. Look how many people show up because this sounds great. Why? Because we have something inside of us that actually wants to be disobedient. You know, we're born into sin. Okay. Trust me, nobody has ever had to teach a child how to lie. I mean, did you do that? No, I didn't do that. There was no amount of public schooling that could have taught that child that, you know what, I'm escaping from this. And I'm going to lie about it. You know what I mean? So we're born into this sin. Okay. And it's because of this flesh. And this is why last week we were talking so much about maintaining the vessel, okay, and not shopping it around all over the place, okay, and not parking your boots under other people's beds and things like that. That's Yahweh can't use you, and better yet, put yourself in Yahweh's position. Would he want to use that? Or would he rather use something that was good, designated, set apart? That means not for anybody else. Just for him. Do you think he would shop down that aisle if he was looking for somebody to use, or would he go down the used car aisle and try to find somebody all burned up? This is our mindset. And and I don't really know what the answer is to that. But I know what our mindset should be. We should be running towards that prize of perfection, not be running for the booby prize. Okay. And I think that's what we have going on in our churches today. I think this is why we're failing, because it says right here in verse 3, it says, but Yeshua deserves more honor than Moshe. Why? Because he was the builder of the house. And I'm sorry, just as the builder of the house deserves more honor than the house itself. We have people that are worshiping Jesus. They're asking you, do you have, and all my Christian friends are going to be mad at me tonight. I don't care. I love y'all. Okay. Please don't get upset. Just listen to what I'm saying, okay? And hear me out. This is going to raise a lot of red flags because culture has taught us to do other things. And let me tell you something. Culture is where the masses go. This road that those of you that Yahweh has called, it's a narrow road. This is a road that these chickens, they're too scared to make a stand with their friends, their bosses, the people around them. They're too scared to say, you know what, I'm set apart. And you know what? Today's Shabbat. And I have to honor this day for Yahweh. We're too scared to do that today. Oh, because, nobody's going to work in those kinds of conditions and nobody's going to hire. Have you tried? And I'm asking you, have you really tried? Because if you look around, because the other part of the wing that I wear on this deal is that, I help people out with some legal stuff here and there. And it's your right. If you give them the proper notice and you say, hey, I have to have Shabbat off, they can't terminate you. But are we scared? Are we too scared to do it? I think we are. I think we've got too many excuses and not enough fruits on the tree to really do this thing right. And you know what? Yeshua would make that stand. Yeshua made that stand. He made that stand to Pontius Pilate. He made that stand to these fake Pharisees. He made it to the Sadducees. He made it to everybody. He made the stand, even Satan himself. He tempted him with the whole world, and he still made the stand. This was the example that we need to set, okay? And I say, this is the example we need to set, those of you that are set apart. We need to not fall into this. And how many of us did it this year? How many of us were waiting for the fat guy to come down the chimney and actually thought this was the end of the year? The end of the year is back in September, guys. You're in the Day of Atonement. But we're not talking about that day, are we? Oh, those are Jewish holidays. No, those are Yahweh's days. Let's keep reading. Verse 5, it says, also Moshe was faithful in all of Yahweh's house as a servant, giving witness. Witness, that means he saw greatness and he reported it, okay? He didn't go up there and say, oh, look how full of faith I am. That means he was a witness to it, man. He wasn't part of it. He wasn't part of the story. He just happened to be in there. This is where we need to be in our processes with Yahweh, because that instills humility in what we need to do. It puts us in a better spot to go forward. But, that's just me. As a servant giving witness to the things that God would divulge later, okay? Verse 6, it says, but the Messiah, as the Son, was faithful over Yahweh's house. And we are that house. Do you hear me? Of his, okay? Our vessels, we're that house. That light, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. We all heard that song, right? Well, that was for real. It wasn't just a cute song to be singing and jumping around in on Sunday. It was actually real. You are that light. But we can't be that light if we're designated for somebody else. Young people, we talked about our temples. We talked about keeping our temples pure, to keep them swept, keep them clean, keep them in order. Why? So when it comes time for Yahweh to use you, you're ready. You've got oil in your lamp. You're ready to get there. And you know what's cool about that? When you're done, and a lot of people don't talk about this much, but I believe that Yahweh takes people home when they've completed this process, when they've completed, when it's done. People get upset when people pass away sometimes. And I'm going to tell you, I think in some instances, in a lot of instances, especially when you have a believer involved, this is a time to celebrate. Because Yahweh said, well done, good and faithful servant. I set you aside for this purpose, and you did it. If you guys want to read up on somebody that's done that, look up the life of Keith Green. Fantastic musician, loved Yahweh like crazy. This guy would show up and pack stadiums with people, and everybody bought tickets, and then he'd give them all their money back. And then he'd tell everybody, go get free CDs. They're up front. I don't care. See? That's a guy that was fearless. That's a guy that trusted in Yahweh so much, he didn't care what the record company said. And you know what happened? 33 years old, Yahweh took him home. He had a freak accident. We could talk about a lot of things. We could talk about who did what did who, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, that servant, that humble servant of Yah, that wasn't afraid to make a stand, that showed that he could trust. He said, I'm going to take you home. If we had more time, I would talk about Elijah. I would talk about how this guy, he went home too, didn't even die. Why? Because he got to the point where it was done. And Yahweh said, you know what? You fulfilled your purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to ask ourselves that very same thing. The clock is running out. Okay? We don't have all these years. And look at me. I don't have all these years and years left to run around the mountain and fix it again. We don't have all this time to do all this stuff. We got to buckle down and get ready. We got serious stuff coming in 2025. We got portals opening. We got little spaceships and little green men and all kinds of stupid stuff running around. But you know what? The faithful, the ones that are trusting in Yah, won't be wavered no matter what happens, no matter who shows up, no matter who our president is. The people that trust in Yahweh will not waver. And let me tell you who knows this. Satan knows this. This is why he's got all these great distractions. This is why he's out there, okay? He's waiting to devour you, each and every one of you. And I'm talking about your joy. I'm talking about your peace. I'm talking about your motivation. I'm talking about your self-worth. He's here to attack every drop of that. He's good at it. Now, here's where he's not good at it. All these demons, they're all a bunch of one-trick ponies. Yep, that's right. Every one of them. They all show up and they all do the same thing every single little time. Those of you guys that take my travel and driving class, you're going to find there's not much difference between these demons and these police officers running around with pistols and 70 IQs trying to enforce the law. You're going to find there's not a lot of difference between these two characters because they all operate under the same premise. And they're just that predictable because they're just that evil. They're just that defined. And those people truly are set apart. Now, where do we fall in all this? This is where we have to look at ourselves and we have to test ourselves, you see. In verse 7, it says, therefore, the Ruach Kodesh, and some of your Bibles might say Holy Spirit, but Ruach Kodesh is actually proper, okay? So therefore, as the Ruach Kodesh says, today, if you hear God's voice, do not harden your hearts as you did in the bitter quarrel on that day in the wilderness when you put God to the test. See, when we hear the voice of Yah, when we hear our parents, when we hear the word and it says, hey, you're set aside for a purpose, man, and we decide we want to go do something else, do you know what happens when we do that? We harden a part of our hearts. Before that happens, there's a part of your heart that's pliable, that's mendable, that's usable. But then we have to just bite our upper lip and we just have to get through it. That's what we call it, right? Well, the Bible calls that hardening your heart. I've talked to people that have been in abortion clinics. They were participants. And I asked them, what did it take to get through that? You know, I mean, that's hard to do. I mean, just the whole procedure, just the whole thought of it. I mean, it's difficult. And I can't imagine because ladies, y'all have complicated software in there. And I mean, I just can't imagine what's going through y'all's heads. So I ask, what did it take? They had to harden their hearts. Did you hear what I said? They had to harden their hearts, man. So we know when we're doing stuff like this and we do harden our hearts, you're putting Yahweh to the test. I have a friend right now that Yahweh is chasing. That's right. He set him apart. His name is Brad. And I know you're watching tonight. He set him apart. And he says, I have a plan for you. And it cost him everything. It cost him his family. It cost him his wife. It cost him his children. Breaks my heart. Because I know what that feels like. Personally. And you know what? He's still chasing him. He's still running from Yahweh. He's still hardening his heart, Brad, from Yahweh. He's hardening his heart right now. Well, hopefully not right now. But last time I talked to him was. And, you know, and these things change. And I've been praying for him. You know what? And Brad, we're going to pray for you tonight too, by the way. This is for you tonight. Because the people that suffer the most, the people that go through the most, okay? These are the people that get the most. Who's the wisest man that's ever lived? King Solomon. Everybody knows that. Even those dumb Masons know that. They put him up everywhere. We got Solomon's temple and this and that. Well, why do they respect this guy so much? Because Yahweh, he asked Yahweh for wisdom. And Yahweh took him through everything. Okay? To the point that this man had seen so much loss and so much, just in general, that he understood spelling. He understood how to put these demons under his workload. He would just tell them what to do, and they would go and build stuff for him. I mean, these are demons. These are fallen angels, man. And this is a man like me. Sits down and, you know, I mean, puts shoes on the same way, pants, everything, right? This is just a man, a servant of Yah. And this man asked Yahweh for wisdom. So I say, be careful what you ask for, because he asked for it and he took them through so much. But because he prevailed, because he passed the test, Brad, Tom, Shelly, Mike, whoever's out there, because he passed the test, he became the wisest man that ever lived. And we have beautiful records that he's written, like Proverbs. And I invite you to read Proverbs. I read Proverbs like there's no tomorrow, and I love it. Why? Because every phrase in there and every chapter in there is a guarantee. It's going to happen. Okay. You don't need to hope for it. And that's all about trust. We've been talking about trust tonight. And this is the cement that holds all those blocks together, the foundation. This is why when I was going through my walk in a Christian church, we weren't quite getting there. I felt like every week we were chasing, it was a pep rally, and every week we were chasing that feeling to have being filled with the Ruach Hakodesh again, to go up and to feel the touch of Yahweh. Huh? And that's what I feel like they're trying to relive. I feel like every week they're heading back and they're just going back towards that pep rally, back towards that pep rally. We don't care about the growing. We don't care about being obedient. We don't care about none of that. We just want the feeling. And then they're running around the church. We talked about this. Verse 12, it says, watch out, brothers, so that there not be any one of you an evil heart lacking trust, which could lead you to apostatize from the living God. So when we harden ourselves, when we harden our hearts, and we do these things and we say, hey, you know what? We're just going to go do this instead. And let me give you an example. When we're sitting down and we know that it's Shabbat and somebody wants to go to the mall. Ugh. I mean, it's hard to say no. But in my heart, I want to say no. I want to say, no, we can't do that. We have to make sure that we stay within these places. I'm going to tell you, us as human beings, we are so easily distracted. We make fun of the raccoons because they chase anything that's shiny. You know what? We're not much better. Okay. I'm not much better. How's that? I'll eat it all. I'm going to eat it all tonight. Okay. You just apply what applies. But I'm just going to tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy to stay obedient. But being obedient doesn't mean you're earning your salvations. I know all you Christians are going to get excited out there. It doesn't mean you're earning your salvation. It means it's proof. It's evidence that you do serve Yahweh. Because if we're running out and we're serving Yahweh how we want to serve him, we're sleeping with partners over here and these people over here, and we're just throwing our vessel all over town, and we're doing this, making ourselves not too usable or not as usable by Yahweh. I mean, he can use anybody he wants to. But I'm talking about you on a personal level, okay? I'm talking about, are you ready? Are you set aside? Are we Elijah? Are we set aside to the point where we can just leave like Elijah did, or like Keith Green did, or like a lot of these other folks have done? This is the race that we're running, everybody, okay? It's not when your ticker dies necessarily. It's when you stop up here. I see a lot of older folks and they get stuck because they've been so where they've been. They're not serving Yahweh. They're serving themselves. And after a while, they get stuck in their own confusion and they start just running around in circles. And then we start seeing things like Alzheimer's. I'm not saying it's exclusive to this because I'm not a medical doctor. I don't know. But I'm just telling you what I see. And we start seeing these patterns and we start seeing people change. We can do this better. We can do this so much better. And it's simple as this. In verse 13, verse 13, instead of keep exhorting each other each day, as long as it is called today, so that none of you become hardened by the deceit of sin. Now, I know let's separate that. When you're hardened by the deceit of sin, that means sin tells you, bite your upper lip, you're going to get through this, okay? Suck it up. Like the guy that's robbing the bank and he's driving the getaway car. He's scared. They're coming out. This could change his entire life, either bad or good. And that's a really double down. that's really not being in the right place. But just think about that guy. Think about how much pressure he's in, and he's got a choice. And we have to make the same choices in our spiritual life too. We can't be the bank robber. We can't be that guy, because the person that we steal from the most is yourself. It's true. When we don't honor Yahweh, what that does is it affects our ability. The word says that if you want to live a long life, trust in Yahweh. Well, when we trust in Yahweh, that means that we're not just acknowledging him, but we're understanding what is required of us. And we're understanding that this is how we're set apart. You are set apart by the things that you do. If we go along with everybody else, just like they used to say back in the day, you're not going to be any better than anybody else. This is what we're missing. This is what we're missing in schools, because parents aren't teaching this stuff anymore. Either the father's been kicked out of the house or the mother's been kicked out of the house, and all the duties are up to the one person. Okay. And the children suffer for this because they don't see it. They only see one perspective. But when we bring Yahweh into this circle, when we bring the discipline and we start trusting in Yahweh, this is when he gets to work. This is when he gets to show you, single parents, what you're missing in your own life so that you can apply it in their lives. We're missing this, and we're losing. We're losing our children, you guys. And we're losing our children because we've taken the ancient boundary stone, the rules, and we've now decided that we're just going to use our feelings. That's right. No more rules. That's it. We're just going to do feelings. And let me tell you, that's not how Yahweh's agenda works at all. Remember what I said earlier. We need to ask ourselves, are we set apart? And the only way that you're going to know that you're set apart is look at the people next to you. Look at the people around you. Are they set apart? What are they doing in their lives? Are they chasing Yahweh like you're chasing Yahweh? Spouses, are they chasing Yahweh like you're chasing Yahweh? Okay. And I'm saying husbands and or wives. Are they? Because they need to. Otherwise, one's going to go over here and the other one's going to head straight to Yahweh. You know, in Revelation, it says there'll be two men in the field. One man's going to leave, one man's going to stay. We're going to see not just two men in the field. We're going to see husbands and wives at home. One staying and the other one leaving. These days are coming, and they're coming fast. They're coming really fast. Look around you. We're in another matrix, you guys, completely. Have you seen all this stuff? Have you seen the aliens running around? Have you seen all the shapeshifters running around? Let me tell you, I've been seeing these shapeshifters running around for the last 25 years. Afraid to say a word. I don't want to say nothing. I was scared to. Nobody else said they saw them. I'm not saying nothing. But now all of a sudden, they're all over TikTok. They're all over the place. And on the dark web, like you wouldn't believe. Not recommending anybody go on the dark web. But I'm just saying, there's people with security cameras, and man, they're catching them doing all kinds of silly stuff. And they're all over the place. Oh my goodness. Who's going to fix this? Your job is to trust Yahweh. Your job is to trust this manual. He gave you this manual so that you'll know exactly what's expected of you, how to get through this, and how we're going to win, more importantly. Huh? Because I want to hear at the end of my days, well done, good and faithful servant. Come on. We got room for you. You know, the word says that he's building a place for us right now. And if he built this earth in 7 days, all this stuff came together in 7 days, just like it's written, and he's been working on this place for me to live all this time, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be pretty cool. I trust the builder, huh? Not the house, but I trust the builder. Verse 14, it says, for we have become sharers in Messiah, provided, however, we are provided that we hold firmly to the conviction we began with, right through and until the goal is reached. What is the goal? What is the goal? You need to ask yourselves that tonight. What's your goal? What are you trying to do? Are we just trying to get to the next breath? Or are we trying to finish this thing? Huh? Man, don't worry about any of your kids. Don't worry about anybody at home. Don't worry about nothing but Yahweh. Keep him focused. Keep your eyes focused on him and trust him. We're going to see some weird stuff, man. We're going to see some really crazy things. It's okay. It's okay. Because it says in 14, it says, like I said, like I was reading just a second ago, for we have become sharers in Messiah, provided, however, we hold firmly to the conviction we began with, right through and until the goal is reached. Verse 15, it says, now it says, today, if you hear God's voice, don't harden your hearts, okay, as you did in the bitter quarrel. You remember we read that earlier. There's a reason he's saying that again. Because now all this stuff is soaked in. Brad, I'm glad you made it, buddy. Love you, dude. Now that all this stuff is soaked in, and now that we're here, you have a chance. You have a chance to take that hardened heart, that broken, hurt heart, and you place it before the feet of Yahweh. And he'll show you love like you've never seen. He'll fill your cup so full. You won't know how it happened, man. And it won't matter, more importantly, okay? Some of you guys that are here on this call tonight have been through some fire. And I know. I can still smell the smoke on some of y'all. And I know what it feels like. And I know it's so agonizing because you're looking around and you're thinking, what's left? What do I have left? I mean, my God, this is gone. This is gone. This is gone. You could just go down the list and just write a book on all the stuff that's gone. Let me tell you something. I could do the very same thing. I could write chapters of crap that is gone. Okay? But I can raise my hands high. I can raise my head high and know that as I serve this creator of ours, that I'm guaranteed to be successful. I'm guaranteed to walk in his marvelous light. I'm guaranteed to know and to have discernment no matter what the situation is. And even if I mess up, he's still there. He's still there. Even if you fail, he's still there and he still loves you. And he loves you so much. He's been waiting for some of y'all to come around for a long time. He waited for me for over 40 years. He did. It took me 40 years to run around my little mountain of life, just like the children of Israel. This is why I love telling that story. I love going into that story because the children of Israel, I was no better. Still am. I'm still not any better, except I didn't do all the complaining these guys did. At least that's okay. But did I do some complaining? Absolutely. Did I do some murmuring? Oh, yes, I did. And it was because I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know how I was going to get there. And maybe we don't need to know how to get there. Maybe we need to start with the basics. Maybe we just need to learn to trust in him. That means that we're going to do what he says to the T, not what your pastor says. That means we're going to open this book in Leviticus and we're going to determine what we're eating and what we're not. About 3 years ago, I had a student fly in. I had a little beard. Those of you guys that have seen me, I had a little, this is like, this is really good. This thing has gotten really big since then. And I'm going to tell you the story how this happened. He came to me and he said, Tim, you're not supposed to trim your beard. I'm not. Well, you're not supposed to use a razor to trim your beard, is what the word says. No razor shall touch your face. And I said, huh? He said, you need to go to Leviticus. You need to read that. I said, but then I'm going to look old, man. I'm going to have this thing all everywhere. And I mean, I'm a pretty, I try to be a little youthful, at my age, and I thought, well, hold on. Do I love him or do I love me more? I had to ask myself that. Am I set apart for his glory or am I set apart for my glory? I'm here to tell you, you're not set apart for your glory. You're set apart for his glory, you silly goose. So there was no question. I started letting my beard grow immediately. And here's what was really cool about it. Everything grew out exactly to its appropriate length. In other words, I had a goatee already there. So I thought, maybe some would outgrow the other or something. You know how you do with hair, regular hair? Not this time. Everything just grew perfectly. And I have not trimmed my beard ever. Why? Because I trusted in him. Okay. I didn't go in and go knock it all off again and say, all right, we're going to start all over and this and that because I'm already doing what I'm not supposed to be doing. I just heard him say, and I heard him read, and I read it too. It said, no razor shall touch my face. So was I going to go circumvent that and undermine that and say, well, I'm just going to do it because, I know my beard better than I don't know this beard at all. As a matter of fact, you guys, I didn't think I could grow one of these, to tell you the truth. I mean, I knew I could bump a little something down here and have a little something here for years, but I didn't think this was even possible. And nobody in my family could do this. Why? How did all this happen? Because I trusted in him. And look, guys, if we can trust in him and he can do little stuff like this, imagine what he can do when it's time, when things are really falling apart around your house. When everything in your life is on the rocks, man. When you're looking around and there's nobody standing with you, there's nobody around you, you're on your own, man. I know that feeling. But when you trust in Yahweh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When we read the story of David and Goliath, when we read that story, we read about a man, a short guy, a little short guy like me, but he was a man after Yahweh's heart. This is a man that was seeking Yahweh before Messiah was even here. Now Melchizedek was here, yes, but before Messiah was actually here, this young David was seeking Yahweh and seeking a relationship with him and talking with him, knowing there was no way he was going to make it to heaven, knowing that there were no guarantees that actually just wasn't going to happen because everybody sinned, everybody fell short. And if you hadn't been taken to the city gates yet and stoned, well, you're halfway there. But everybody still had dirty hands. That's why Yeshua told the people that were going to stone that woman, let the first man that has no sin throw the first stone. And they all had sin in their heart. They all had sin in their past. This is trusting in Yahweh. When we trust in Yahweh, the details don't matter. Did you hear what I said? When you trust in Yahweh, the details don't matter. What matters is the details of what you're doing. That's what matters. Because if you're obedient, if you're listening to him, he's going to tell you everything you need to do. When I was in the middle of my, with Houston, a lot of you guys have seen my Houston County case on TikTok. And when I was fighting that case, well, I still am actually, but when guns were blazing and stuff was back and forth and, my freedom was hanging in the balance there. These guys are I believe these people were trying to kill me. I do. And I believe that these people were trying to do everything they could to get me back to their little crappy town so they could literally kill me. And you know what I did? I showed up. But I didn't show up alone. I showed up with my Yahweh. And those people, they were silenced. They couldn't speak. They couldn't finish a sentence, you guys. The judge was so out of it. He was sitting in the witness stand trying to command the court from the witness stand, not even realizing he's in the wrong chair. This is what happens when you take Yahweh into those dark places with you and you trust him. And when David went and he stood before Goliath. Understand, Goliath had 2 more brothers that were there. And these guys were talking it up. They would come out every morning and talk trash to Israel, talk trash about their God. They would disrespect them. Oh, it's Shabbat. Ooh, whoopee, hoo, hoo, hoo. And they're making all this fun. Forgive me, Yahweh. I'm just acting the part. But they're doing this. And they're doing it to disrespect Yahweh. And what does he do? He brings little David, this guy. But he sent them through the little training course, see? He killed a bear with his bare hands, and he was just a teenager. And he was a warrior. He was a warrior not because he was physically strong, but because he was set apart. He didn't belong to anybody but Yahweh. He didn't even belong to himself. His entire identity was built in Yahweh. Ooh, fire. That's trusting in Yahweh. That's evidence, man. And at the end of the day, it didn't matter how big it was. What I said about the details, they don't matter, man. At the end of the day, he's going to win. It just depends who you're serving. And so tonight, I have to ask yourself, you have to ask yourself, are you really set apart? Let's read verse 16 for just a second. It says, he's talking about hardening the hearts, you know, and it says, who were the people who they had heard and they quarreled so bitterly? All of those that Moshe brought out of Egypt, all that Moses brought out of Egypt, not Abraham, my mistake earlier. Anyway, in whom that God was disgusted for 40 years. He was disgusted with these people for 40 years. Why? Because he was waiting for them to come around. He's not happy with them. Those who sinned, yes, they fell dead in the wilderness. And to whom it was that he swore that they would not enter his rest. Whoa, wait a minute. So here's a criteria. These are the people that Yahweh said they're not going to enter into my rest. And if this is you, this is you. This is something for you to go check your mail. Some of us need to go get our houses in order. We talked about this last week. Me too. Okay. I'm no better. I'm not up here preaching at you guys. I'm telling you, this is something that I see in my life too. Okay. Welcome everybody to the call. Mary, Abriana, welcome to the call. So glad you guys are here. And in verse 18, it says, to whom that he swore that he would not enter into their rest, into his rest, those that were disobedient. Okay. So we see that they were unable to enter because they lacked trust. Now, those of you guys know that I teach a UCC and trust class. And I'm going to tell you, the principles are the same. They're exactly the same. A trust is an agreement, okay? It's a covenant. And Yahweh has created this covenant with his people. Now, who are his people? Well, simple as this. Parents, those of you guys that have children, okay? If I called you up and said, Johnny did X, Y, and Z at 1, 2, 3, and you were like, oh, that's absolutely terrible. Johnny would never do that because that's my son and he would never do that. No, that certainly can't be him. What was the deciding factor? His actions, the things that he does. So the evidence in us being obedient is us honoring Shabbat. This is us going back to the word and saying, you know what, we're not going to order pork. We got a lot of pork out there. It's almost impossible to go out to eat anywhere because you don't know where they're sliding it in. Even with chocolate. Ugh, so frustrating. But it's because this world doesn't like you. I had to come to that realization. It doesn't like me. I rejoice in that. I'm really glad that this world doesn't like me because I don't particularly like it that much either. So what we've learned tonight, just in a recap, is that the people that are not going to enter into his rest are the people that are disobedient. Okay? Does that mean that we could break the rules and come back in and ask for forgiveness every Sunday? You know what I call that? That's called greasy grace. That ain't going to get it done. Do you realize how many people are going to make it through the door like that? Like everybody. The road that we're on, though, the road to Yahweh is a narrow road. It's a road that not many people can travel. Do you remember last week we talked about the 10 virgins, right? 5 of them were good and 5 of them were not, just not getting it done. 5 of them were mendable. 5 of them were ready to do this, okay? But the other 5 were just acting the part. We got a lot of people acting the part these days, don't we? We got a lot of televangelist people, and they're all acting the part in the name of. We need to get away from all this acting, okay? We need to stop listening to the blab it and grab it guys, okay? If you want real prosperity, learn discipline. Learn to trust that this word is going to take care of you. This word that I've read to you tonight, this wonderful scripture that has been left for us, is your manual to complete this race so that you can go home. And the longer that we stay here and try to figure this thing out, for some of us, that could be extending your time here quite a bit. You might run into some problems. Your ship may not be what you want it to be, but this is why we need to work on Yahweh's timetable. This is why for 2025, we got to give ourselves to Yahweh. We got feast days coming up. We got real holidays. We got real stuff going on this coming year in 2025, and we need to get ready for it. It may be the last one we do. Think about that. So tonight I want you to ask yourselves, are you set apart? And if you believe that you are, where is your evidence? If you were to stand before a panel of people today, what would be your evidence? Because you know a 1, 2, 3 and a 4, 5, 6 little cliche that's been taught to you since Sunday school? That ain't going to get it done. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter. What matters is do you have evidence? Huh? Is there evidence of Yahweh in your life? This is what we need to look for in our lives every day. You know, I'm going to go into more of this in another Bible study, but we're going to talk about first fruits. I know we've talked about it before, but we're going to talk about tithing and first fruits again. And we're going to reintroduce that for 2025. It's probably something big I really want to get into. And I feel like this is something that we need to do. Look, we're going to see some crazy inflation. We're going to see some crazy, crazy stuff out there. It's so important that we have our houses in order, because when these storms come, we need to be under those pinions. I hope that you have found tonight's study helpful. I hope that it's blessed your day. I hope that it's brought you to a point where you can self-reflect, where you can look inside, where you can check your own mail and say, do I really think that I'm measuring up? Don't worry about what anybody else says. Don't worry about what I say. Worry about what this word says. It's okay. We're going to repost this. This will be on, if you guys want to listen to this, somebody just jumped on and says he missed it. I know towards the end. If you go to, let's see, it will be on my Facebook page. And if you go to the House of Yah Community Outreach on Facebook, if you search us on Facebook, this study will also be on, or it'll be on that page as well. So don't worry about it, Rob. We'd love to have you on there. We'd love to have your input too. I'm so glad that everybody did join us tonight. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. Remember that Yahweh loves you so, so much. And he's waiting, okay? He's waiting so patiently for all of us to get our houses in order, to get our vessels in order, so that he can come home, so we can all go home, so we can get off this rock, so we can stop dealing with these principalities and these evil people trying to steal your children, these evil people that are trying to steal your peace, your property, your money, all this stuff. We could change this today, but it all depends on you. And I ask you today, check your inventory. Okay. Check in with yourself. Shalom. Check in with yourself. Okay. Check everything. Husbands, check in with your wives. Ask them what they think about you. Really. Get your houses in order. Okay. It's going to be okay. But we just need to get ready. I hope you guys have enjoyed the study. My name is Tim Damron. I'm with the House of Yah Community Outreach. We're going to be on tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central Time. My co-host, which I'm so glad she's here. She's actually on the call tonight. Natasha Jordan will be joining me tomorrow night at 6 p.m. We got some really good stuff to go over. Also, tomorrow night, Alex Moran is going to be on the call tomorrow, and he's going to be talking about his upcoming fight that's coming up in California. He's our UFC fighter. He's also one of our students too, but he's also using the trust. That's right. This thing that we've been talking about tonight. Well, he's actually using a trust to manage all of his fights, to manage all of the things that he's doing. So this is a very, very exciting time. We're going to show you how tonight we talked a little bit how it works biblically, but tomorrow we're going to show you how it works in the day-to-day, how it works for a UFC fighter. What's he doing with all this? How's this stuff working for him? We're going to be talking about that tomorrow night. I can't wait to have you guys here on the call. Be blessed, everybody. And remember that Yahweh loves you so much. Be blessed, everybody. Good night.